This is the last session. So, well, we have for this last, we'll do this later. Don't waste time before this session, please. So we have first a roundtable. This roundtable will be chaired by Emma Smith. So I give you immediately the microphone and present the panel.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the final plenary, everybody, and good job on making it this far. So we have an excellent panel here today of leaders in the field and people who are going to give us their perspective on the week or the few days that we have just had. And what I will do very briefly is I will ask each of the panel members to introduce themselves and only to do a very brief introduction, and we'll come back and then begin to ask you questions as we go along. So I will hand it over.
Thank you. My name is Evert ten Hogewerf and I'm the Secretary General of AAATE.
And I'm Luc de Witte. I have been involved with the AAATE for many, many years. And currently I'm president of the Global Alliance of Assistive Technology Organizations, which is one of the things I try to do in this field.
Hello, I'm Kylie Shea. I'm the team lead for Access to Assistive Technology at WHO, based in Geneva headquarters. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Annelie Waller. I'm an academic, but I've got so many hats, I don't know which one I wear when. And I've been involved in AAATE and RESNA since the mid-80s, but I'm not always seen.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pascal Bielefeld. I'm the CEO of AT Scale, the Global Partnership for Assistive Technology. Thank you.
We'll see if this mic works. Excellent. So as you can see, we have a very esteemed panel here who are going to provide us with some of their thoughts. So the first thing that I'm going to ask is, I'm going to ask everybody to give us their most important insight that they have gained from the last few days together. So I'm actually going to start with Kylie in the center. Oh. Yes, at the end or now. Oh, we are going to start with Pascal's keynote. So Pascal is going to have the next 10 minutes to do his keynote speech.
Thanks, Emma. I don't mind going at the end either, but anyway, I have the pleasure to share a few more extensive thoughts before the others do. So always happy to take that opportunity. As I just said, I'm Pascal. For those who don't know me or AT Scale, we are a relatively new initiative based in Geneva, hosted by UNOPS. And I really want to first thank of all the organizers of AAATE to be part of this closing ceremony and for inviting us to this important conference. We're not expert ourselves in the field, we're not academics and researchers, but really this is a really important forum for us to exchange and learn. And I've really been impressed, especially myself, not being an AT expert, to really learn about all the developments that are happening in this space, the potential for artificial intelligence, the robotics, even an amazing conversation this morning around gender and AT. So really a lot of exciting conversations happening, and also very pleased to see, because of our particular interest, that there is an increasing focus also on lower and middle income countries as part of the exchange, which obviously that's our particular focus as well. It's really important that AT is accessible everywhere to everyone. What strikes me in many of these conferences is that we're all here amongst sort of ourselves, experts, knowledgeable. We live AT day in and day out in one way or shape or form. But when we leave this room, who really knows about assistive technology, right? I mean, who knows that there's 2.5 billion people in the world that need one form of AT or another? Who knows that, if here in France or Switzerland or Germany or the US, about 80 percent of people who need AT can access it. In lower income countries, that's 10%, and even sometimes lower. Who knows that, you know, the life-changing impact that just eyeglasses can have on someone. Who knows that smartphones is today one of the most used forms of assistive technology. And who knows that AT is actually a basic human right? It's not only something that, you know, is a smart thing to invest in, and there's even a return on investment in, but it is a fundamental, basic human right. And not enough people know that, unfortunately. Next month, we'll be meeting in New York. Some of you may be there for the SDG Summit, celebrating, or perhaps not really celebrating because we're not making that much progress, unfortunately, but talking about where we are on that journey to 2030. And one of the things that I'll be saying there is that we'll never reach the SDGs if we can't make sure that the most basic, even the most basic forms of assistive technology is available to everyone everywhere, right? Because the mantra of leaving no one behind can never be met if we don't have inclusive societies, and we can't have inclusive societies if even AT is not accessible. How are we going to change that? Obviously, collective action. That's why we're a partnership, coordinating, you know, a global movement that brings together users, civil society, the private sector, governments, organizations of people with disabilities, organizations of elderly people, innovators, and of course, the academic and research community. We need to create win-win solutions that work for businesses, that work for governments, that work for individuals, so that we end up with markets that are viable in the long term. We need to change systems. We need to invest in revising policies and developing the workforce and putting in place financing mechanisms. We need to raise awareness. As I said before, that is, you know, not enough people know about this. That's the first response I usually get when I talk to somebody about what we're doing is, oh, I had no idea. But it's relevant to health, to education, to the climate environment, to humanitarian responses, to labor, to IT and innovation, et cetera. And we need to get AT on the agenda in all of these sectors. And last but not least, we need to change mindsets, right? AT is not just a nice to have. It's really is a moral imperative. And AT Scale has been set up to try to help in that journey. And we have an ambitious goal of trying to reach 500 million more people by 2030. And we can only do that with a partnership. Many of you are here in this room: WHO, UNICEF, the Global Disability Innovation Hub, iAlliance, CHAI, USAID, other donors, and as I said, of course, the academic and research community. So let me just finish by pointing to a few things that I'm hoping perhaps you can help with, and that perhaps we can circle back next year and see if we're making progress on those fronts. The first thing is, can we make sure that the research that you all are undertaking and others that are not with us here today are doing is really even more geared towards action, towards operational research, towards implementation research, to really help understand what works, what doesn't work, how to operationalize all the tools and the guidance and the know-how that is there. We know what to do, but still, we're really struggling to do it. And I think a lot more help, and your help would be appreciated in this area. The second area, which I think is really important, and perhaps you can help, is also around the cost of AT, right? AT is driven largely by high-income country markets and the dynamics in those markets, and the prices are you know, inflated, frankly, and they're increasing, right? There's increasing complexity. We want even more sophisticated stuff. And so the price keeps going up and the access gap keeps increasing. How do we move towards a change of that paradigm to make sure we're aiming for the highest quality, but at reasonable and affordable prices? And again, I think the research and academic community could help in this regard. And last but not least, I think, you know, you all have an amazing network amongst universities, amongst research institutions, between the North and the South, the South and the South. What can you do to help make sure we're creating a body of AATE experts in low and middle income countries, right? Again, we have now an amazing array and toolbox of guidance, of tools that WHO and others are developing, yet there is a real lack of people on the ground that can help governments and other stakeholders make sense of those and put them in practice. And I'm not talking here about more audiologists or physiotherapists or ophthalmologists. Yes, we need those as well in lower and middle income countries. I'm talking here about people who are knowledgeable about AT as a discipline, as a sector, as an ecosystem, and that can really provide that expert advice in country. Finally, just to let you know that we're embarking at AT Scale and with our partners on a global campaign. We want to continue this momentum that we are seeing of increasing attention, increasing awareness, and your voice is particularly important in that campaign. So expect to hear from us, and we hope that we can count on you and your voice as we move this along. The world needs this. As you all know, millions of people need this, and together, let's unlock that potential. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Pascal, for those words. So we are going to turn to our panel to see how they have felt about the last few days and the insights that they have had. My first question to the panel is just about that, the insights that they have had. So for each of the panel members, if you could give us one, your most critical and most important insight, and that doesn't mean one with several sub-bullets, your most important insight that you have had over the course of the last few days. And maybe Kylie, I'll start with you. So Pascal, if you could hand the mic to Kylie. Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I've heard that, no sub-bullets. Tricky. Okay. I had a think. We have had a look at these questions, so I had a little bit of preparation in mind. And part of the question, when I saw it written, Emma, included the insights and then what are you going to do about it going forwards? And so that
is fair. I did ask that. Yes.
That's very true. And so that immediately brought forward to me, the work that WHO is doing, and we came to discuss with the sector here. And so I really want to share with you the insight from that piece of the conversation that we had with you on the potential development of WHO guidelines on the provision of assistive technology. And it's actually a very nice segue from the challenge that Pascal has just put out around how do we operationalize access to assistive technology. So we can have lots and lots of product innovation, we can have amazing ideas, and this sector is full of it. And in terms of insights, I have really, really appreciated hearing of the work that you're all doing in this sector. But what I've also heard is common challenges and frustrations around reach and that operationalizing part. How do we actually ensure the provision part of your work is reaching those unmet needs? And so I would like to thank those of you that participated in the discussion that we had. And the insights that I've come away with is that there is incredible expertise in the room and in the sector, and that is growing, and the momentum is really coming to the fore. And so I feel that we have a very fertile ground, and the time is right now to be developing guidelines that will really speak to how do we set the minimum requirements for provision of all assistive technology, not just product-specific guidelines, but something that really unifies the concept of the provision of assistive technology. And in terms of taking it home, I really, really look forward to continuing the vibrant engagement with the sector as we go along a journey of development of these guidelines. And actually borrowing from Pascal again in a statement that he made during the discussion on this yesterday, which is that we can really ensure that the journey of developing something like WHO guidelines on provision of assistive technology, that the process, we can gain as much from that process of engagement and discussion with the sector. And I hope that that is a contribution to the sector in the same way that the sector will contribute to the end result of these guidelines. And that's what I'm taking away. How do we continue that really good engagement with this incredible sector? And thank you all very much.
Thank you, Kylie. Perhaps we'll go to Everett John and have you answer the same question.
Thank you. Thank you, Emma. The last session I attended was about gender and the relationship with assistive technology. And it was a very fruitful discussion, but very soon we started to touch upon wider diversity-related aspects. And actually, I don't have really a sort of an insight, too many, so, but I can't share them all. I want to share an important confirmation. And a confirmation that what we try to do in AAATE with this conference is to bring as much as possible different stakeholders together. And that's why we started to develop educational sessions, we started to do policy sessions, we started to create an innovation area for developers and researchers. So, and I think that the biggest advantage of having, or the strong point of this conference is that we actually try to create the conditions for that dialogue. The people that stand differently in the field, either as teachers or as developers or researchers, but also as end users or policymakers or people that work on the concept development more than on the technology, on how to get the technology out of the labs into the markets and then into the communities. All that is very, very important. So the confirmation that I got is that this is effectively working and people like it, and the policy sessions are all full. So it's not only about different stakeholders of different roles that people have in the field, it's also about slightly about different topics. This is one of the very few conferences where you can learn about accessibility, assistive technology, and other aspects related to the relationship between technology and disability. So maybe we should also think a little bit about the title, so technology and disability, more than assistive technology alone, which is of course a broad topic, but okay, that's another question.
Thank you for that insight. Kylie, perhaps you could pass the mic to Annalou.
Thank you. It's great to be back. What has struck me over the 3 days is the confirmation which has slowly dawned in my mind over nearly 40 years of working and innovating new tech. We don't need more new tech. What we need is to acknowledge that digital AT is different from traditional AT, where we have one assessment, an annual review, and if I put on weight or lost weight, I will get a new wheelchair. Digital AT requires ongoing support in the context. And what bugs me, I can see the potential of digital AT. I have dabbled in AI for 30 years. It's not new, guys. What we need is people, AT knowledgeable people on the ground to democratize AT, to realize that by giving the most severely disabled people access to learning, to social, to employment, we will make the world a better place for everyone who can benefit from the knowledge we learn in terms of designing more usable and effective technology.
Thank you very much, Annalou. So we'll get Luke to answer next.
Well, thank you. It's a very difficult question, but first of all, I think I agree very much with the previous speakers. One point that has kept me busy here is that you see on the one hand fantastic examples of very interesting new innovations and very solid research on the ground. And on the other hand, we have these policy sessions and we have discussions about very high over big topics. We hear about the initiatives from WHO. But I think it's very important to combine that in a conference. But the next step will be how to connect it. Because I've heard several speakers talking about their everyday work, and it's completely separate from the discussions we were having on the third floor. I don't have answers, but that is what I take home, how to somehow connect that and bridge these differences. Because we've spoken to people really struggling in their everyday work, how to do it better. And then we're talking about big policies. And yeah, it's important, but well, that's the main thing that I take home.
So you've done a very good job of transitioning to the next question. And I'm actually going to because Pascal had an opportunity to talk about some of his insights already, pass the mic to Pascal. And what you see, particularly because this has not been a field that you've been involved in for a very long time, as some of the others have, what you see as the biggest challenges facing the field of AT today?
Where to begin? There are many. I think there's two main. In my sort of view, I would say boils down to two. One is just this lack of awareness that is out there. I mean, I'm the first one guilty of that until I, started working in this area barely 2 years ago. It was not on my radar at all. I've been working in development for 20 plus years in all parts of the world, and this just never gets talked about. Like disability also just does not get talked about. It's considered perhaps too complicated, and we'll deal with that later. We just can't deal with it. It's just on nobody's radar. So that's the first big challenge, and it's true also at government level, right? It's true at all levels of the system. So how do we really change that? And then the second, I guess, biggest challenge, which is the overarching, I think, thing that then influences a lot of the rest is the money, is the financing, right? How do we make AT affordable to everyone who needs it? And that is a nut that has not been cracked. Here in high-income countries, we've got some systems in place through insurance mechanisms and so forth that can alleviate that, but that is not available in most parts of the world, right? And so how are we going to solve that? Governments aren't going to start funding this anytime soon. They can't even fund their primary healthcare systems in many countries, right? So this is really, for me, the biggest challenge, and that has all these knock-on effects on human resource capacity building that needs to follow, that also requires funding, and all the other ecosystem pieces that are required. So not an easy task.
No, but thank you for your response. Luke, I'm going to ask you to answer this question next, particularly coming from another global perspective with GATO and the industry-wide perspective from GATO. What do you see as the biggest challenges facing the field at the moment?
Well, again, a difficult question. I think the most fundamental problem is the way how we look at assistive technology. Recently I was in a discussion and I suddenly made the comparison with education. In every country we invest, every government does that, invests in education for children for up till the age of 25. And there's no discussion. Sometimes there's a discussion about how much and about how much the students have to pay themselves, but education is a normal thing in every society. Why is providing people with opportunities to participate, not the same thing. And that is a completely paradigm shift. If we would do that, the financial discussion is also solved, because what the country invests in education is a lot. And it's probably, if we would do the same for assistive technology. I think that's the most fundamental thing, to really change the way we think about assistive technology and approach this field. And it has been very much, and still is in many countries, a charity thing, and these poor people, we have to help them, and that still is very often present. And then it becomes a medical thing, which is also not. For part it is, but so why not see it as a normal aspect of society?
Thank you. Everett, John, would you like to answer that question as well?
Yeah, thank you. Well, the most important thing is that we do not work in isolation. It's the most important thing is that we actually because I very much agree with the topic of awareness. It's just not on the agenda of many politicians, and probably we're not selling it right in the right way. I believe that the community is very important, the community of researchers, but also practitioners and educators and everybody that is involved, end users, of course, advocates. And if we can try to create that ecosystem which is actually moving forward together, then probably we will be more successful in reaching out to policy levels where the actual change needs to be made. At ground or let's say as more operational level, I think we should continue to invest in services, better services that are more independent in advising and recommending technology with skilled professionals, and all that needs to be done, and to reach through education and to work at a regional and local level with your institutional bodies.
Thank you. So I'm going to switch gears from challenges to successes, and perhaps if you could hand the microphone to Kylie. Kylie, if you could imagine or think about what you think our greatest successes as a field have been over the last number of years, what would they be?
Successes in the last few years, last 10 years?
10. Let's
10
say
years,
10.
okay. Look, what I really see is the momentum, and I think that's a massive success in itself. The fact that there's this many people in a room, that there's not just AAATE, that there are networks that are developing in other countries and other regions around the world, that GATO has formed, so we've got that momentum amongst the service providers and the service users coming together. The fact that you've got an access to assistive technology team at WHO, I mean, that is an achievement, and it wasn't there maybe 10 years ago. I'm trying to think what the chronology was. Japala's been with WHO for 20 years, but not with an access to assistive technology team. The foundation of GATE, the mobilization of AT Scale, the AT 2030 program, these are major initiatives. The amount of funding that governments are putting into those initiatives, we didn't have that before. The Global Report on Assistive Technology, I mean, it is truly significant, and it has made a huge difference in enabling us to start to have conversations at the UN, so we can take it out of just the World Health Organization and start taking it into the UN level and have conversations in relation to, what would the UN General Assembly like to say on the subject of assistive technology? We weren't talking about that 10 years ago. So it's interesting, we've just flipped from a challenge, which is not enough awareness, and yet actually we're at a point where there's way more awareness than there ever has been before. And we have tools and we have resources that we didn't have before. 5 years ago, no one had thought about doing a population survey to understand the statistical need and unmet need. And now we have over 35 surveys done by using the WHO RATA tool, 330,000 people surveyed in 3 years, which tell us some of the statistics that we've been sharing with you today. So I think I will stop there, but just there's a few quick things around major global initiatives that I think are changing and will help us in particular to shift the political will, which is what I heard here as challenges. These are tools, we have to use them well, and we can move forwards. Thanks.
Thank you. Could you pass it to Annalou, actually? So Annalou, same question to you. What do you think are our successes, the things we're actually doing well?
I've been here a long time, so I remember growing up in a very segregated world. And I think in some countries, not all, in some very affluent countries, we have moved towards an understanding and appreciation that disability is part of being human and that we are not different to anyone else. So the whole inclusion agenda has been something that is now resulting in the mainstream understanding of things like accessibility. The fact that companies, the big IT companies, IBM, Google, Apple, GitHub, etc., are now looking at accessibility as an important part of their daily business. Not because they're doing it because it's a good thing. They've realized that it is to their benefit to do this. And I think this gives us an insight into how to maybe address those challenges, is to come out of the dark corners and start really pushing on the fact that being disabled is no different to being non-disabled. We are all part of the diversity of being human, and by giving people the access to the tools they require to learn and to develop and to be part of society is better for the world in general. And maybe that can solve a lot more problems that we face today.
Thank you. You can actually pass the microphone to Pascal. Pascal, if you were to imagine the world 10 years from now and the industry 10 years from now, what do you see as the potential biggest advancements we might see from the industry today?
That's a tough one, especially from somebody who's not really an expert in the field. But I think what I would love to see really is, and probably where there's the biggest potential for game-changing is around digital assistive technology. And what that we've already seen, you know, how smartphones and other such tools can really make a massive difference and help democratize access to assistive technology. Now, there are risks that, of course, come with digital AT as well, and AI, you know, probably will also come with its own risks. But you know, I think that's one. The other one is, I would really love to see 10 years from now, AT, a lot more of the AT innovation, production, manufacturing being, you know, happening outside of Europe and the US or China. And I think that would also make a big difference globally.
Thank you. Annalou, would you like to answer the same question?
Are you sure?
You have like a minute.
Okay. I want to see people of all abilities in all levels of research and innovation. So we somehow need to support and empower people with the most complex physical and or learning disabilities to become the drivers of their own future. And that means they know what they need. And if we can do that, we will empower everyone to have a voice into how societies and technology develops to meet the needs of the diversity that makes us human.
Very well done. Thank you. Kylie, 10 years from now.
Very quickly on digital technology, I just want to say that I would really like to see a lot of effort going into how we harness the power of digital technology to support provision. So picking up on my earlier piece, it's the operationalizing. Digital assistive technology products are fascinating, they're wonderful, but let's put some effort into what can we do with digital technology to reduce the gap between service providers and service users, and service providers in the front line in community health services, for example, and their ability to access more specialist service providers. So that was just something I wanted to flag. 10 years from now, I would like to see assistive technology being systematically integrated in emergency response, because right now it's not. And I really haven't heard much about that topic here at this conference, and apologies if I've missed anyone's amazing presentation on that. But what I see where I am at WHO is ad hoc response and also a regression to a donation mentality in an emergency situation, and that is not good enough. And I know, within my role at WHO, within a UN agency, I have responsibility, but also all of us have responsibility to raise the game and to raise the pressure to ensure that those that are affected by any kind of humanitarian crisis and have assistive technology needs, we're better at addressing that in the moment, not 6 months and a year after the event. Thank you.
Thank you, Kylie. Luke.
Well, of course, everything everyone else has said is true, and I really hope that Annaloes' vision will become reality. That's well, we can only hope and do our best. One thing that was not that mentioned that clearly, I think there will be enormous developments in technology. I don't know who has seen a very interesting report from the World Intellectual Property Organization, which was published a year earlier than the WHO UNICEF report. If you read that, and it's an analysis of patents, what's happening around the world, you see an unbelievable potential the technology will offer, and that is not only digital. And we always talk about digital as it will solve everything. No, it's also in new materials, in new production technologies. So have a read, because I bet the majority has not seen that report. But it's really interesting. And if that becomes reality, then we will see lots of new solutions that will become mainstream, easily available. But of course, we have to do it right. And to do it right, you need the policy attention, and as Kylie said, we have to do it right. But if we combine these things, then the world could really be a better place in 10 years. Well.
Thank you. Everett John, last words.
Yeah, quick. I think in 10 years' time, we will have better, faster assistive solutions, helping people with more effectively than now. But I think what is the most challenging thing is to continue to work with the creating enabling environments. The technology alone is not sufficient. We need to work with schools, we need to work with the world of education, with employment, in all sectors where technology might be useful for people or can be deployed, need to be involved in this discussion and need to be aware that they actually have a responsibility in creating that enabling environment. And yeah, so I think that's the main challenge.
Thank you very much. That was very diverse, reflecting the diversity of the field and the diversity of the people that we are and that we work with. So thank you all for your responses to the panel. And now we will hand it over to Georgios to close the conference.
Thanks a lot. I like this last question, and remember that this will be on YouTube. So in AAATE 2033, we are going to play it and to check. So I will just put this. Okay, so we're almost there. Food is getting close. So first, in this closing ceremony, we have an important tradition here. And I will give the microphone to the president of AAATE, Georgios Kourou-Petroglou.
Thank you, Dom. Dear participants, we're coming to the last part of our conference, and the most important distinguished award we have in AAATE, because we have a lot of awards, is the Diamond AAATE Award. And this year, the board decided to give not one, but 2 Diamond Awards. So I would like to announce the first. Okay. What is this?
Can you play the first slide without it?
No, I have not announced.
Stop. You don't move. Now you can.
Okay, so I would like to announce now to all of you that after the decision of our board, the first AAATE Diamond is awarded to Professor Christian Buchler. I would like to ask now the secretary of the board, Tone Olderud, to say a few words about the work of Christian.
Thank you very much. This is the best time of the conference, and it's our pleasure as a board to hand out these awards. So the AAATE Diamond Award is a personal recognition granted for outstanding work in advancing assistive technology in Europe, within or outside the association at international or national level. And today, as we have heard, we have 2 award winners, and it's 2 really champions in the field of assistive technology, and we are recognizing them for their major contributions for more than 30 years in the field. So first I will announce Professor Bühler. So the board of AAATE has decided to award the AAATE Diamond to Professor Christian Bühler for his long-term commitment and outstanding work in the field of assistive technology. He has contributed as a professor in rehabilitation technology, as a researcher, an innovator, active founding member, and previous president of AAATE and founding member of GATO. Professor Bühler started his career as senior researcher at University of Dortmund, Germany in 1985. He achieved his PhD in control engineering, robotic and nonlinear systems from Technical University of Dortmund in 1989. From 1991, Professor Bühler was the first director of the Research Institute FTB, setting up of the institute, its mission, strategy, structures, and project lines. Let's see. From 1993, Professor Bühler became one of the responsible leaders of the EU project Horizontal European activities in rehabilitation technology, named the HEART Project. The study had a very significant impact on the AT field in Europe and beyond, and many of us still make references and find to the findings from the study. The HEART project was part of the EU TIDE program, Technology for the Integration of Disabled and Elderly in Europe. And Professor Bühler was one of the key persons to establish AAATE and make AAATE take off after its foundation. He became a board member and a president from 2000 to 2001. He was also instrumental when the seeds for the foundation of GATO, Global Alliance of Assistive Technology Organization, were laid in 2000, when AAATE, ARATA, RESNA, and RESIA joined forces to move forward on the agenda on assistive technology. Professor Bühler was one of the signatories from AAATE. In 2004, he became professor in rehabilitation and technology at Dortmund University. Throughout the years, Professor Bühler has provided advices and support nationally and internationally, and he has participated in a wide variety of bodies and committees at all levels, from policy to user involvement and dissemination of assistive technology. His research concentrates on technology and disability, facilitating accessibility, participation, and inclusion with the help of technology. So to the finishing. Dr. Bühler is a true AAATE activist advocating for assistive technology. His contributions to the assistive technology field in Europe has been significant throughout 3 decades. This award is an acknowledgement of your outstanding work in advancing assistive technology in Europe. AAATE wish you all the best, and we would like to encourage you to continue your commitment in the field of assistive technology, even after your retirement after this year. So congratulations.
Christian, please. Well, congratulations. This is the certificate of the decision of the board.
Can I say something? So thank you very much. I'm very honored, to be honest, and I'm not going to talk a lot. I really enjoyed this conference, as many conferences before, and I just share some sort of historical AAATE thing with us, because I brought this tie because we got this tie in the HEART project from the HEART leader from the Swedish Handicap Institute. And actually, how did we develop AAATE? There was a very short story, because on the final meeting of this project, we were sitting together in a pizzeria. A lot of engineers were there, and we were thinking about this foundation of something comparable to RESNA. And as we were engineers, we all knew IEEE. And that's why we came up with AAATE at this evening in the pizzeria. And there is a napkin owned by Tai Sude, the first president, which he still has, where we wrote this down and signed it. So this was the unofficial start of AAATE. Of course, the official one was then later on the eCard 2 in Stockholm. So thanks a lot, and keep on going. It was great to be here.
And now I would like to announce to all of you the second Diamond Award of AAATE, which is, of course, equivalent to the Christian's Award. And according to the decision of our board, this award is given to Professor Julio Abascal. Again, I will ask the Secretary, Ton Oderud, to say a few words about the work of Julio.
Yes, the board decision is to award the AAATE Diamond to Professor Abascal for his tireless work in advancing assistive technology, especially in the field of human-computer interaction, digital accessibility, and inclusion for all. He has contributed significantly both nationally and internationally. Professor Abascal was a professor at the University of Basque Country in the Department of Computer Architecture and Technology in Spain, teaching accessibility, universal design, and assistive technology. Professor Abascal obtained his PhD in computer science in 1987, but already in 1985, Professor Abascal founded a human-computer interaction laboratory for special needs at the University of Basque Country to deal with communication problems of persons with disability and to facilitate the application of new information technology to persons with disabilities. The laboratory has had a strong impact in the field, and it has been a reference for researchers in the field of human-computer interaction and digital accessibility, both nationally and internationally, for almost 40 years. At the end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s, Professor Abascal contributed to the first EU call for projects dedicated for assistive technology and accessibility, called Technology Initiative for Disabled and Elderly People, the TIDE program. He further participated in the committee that evaluated the project from the TIDE program, including the HEART project. For many years, he organized multidisciplinary courses in assistive technology in different countries, with an emphasis in the area of AAC, that contributed to better knowledge of AAC by end users and professionals. Professor Abascal has worked tireless for various research associations and international conferences, and he has been involved in the development of assistive technology in Europe practically since the field was created in Europe. The award is an acknowledgement of your outstanding work in advancing assistive technology technology in Europe, and AAATE is in grateful recognition of your distinguished contribution and strong dedication to the thrive towards digital access and inclusion for persons with special needs. AAATE wish you all the best, and we would also like to encourage you to continue your commitment in the field of assistive technology. Congratulations.
I know you are angry, and I will try to be short. It's difficult because it's many things that I need to say many things, and I will not have time, so I will go to the short version. First of all, thank you, Georgios, and thank you, the committee, for awarding me this award. I am really honored, and it was something unexpected, and really it touched me. You have a list of merits that I didn't know. In fact, if I try to be honest, I think that I have only two merits. One is to be in the right place in the right moment, and the other is, I don't know if it is a merit, but is not being able to say no. So my history is, and my contact with the AAATE is based in these two things. I was in 1990. I was called for a European market survey on accessible technology with other 25 researchers in Europe. We developed a complete report in 7 volumes, and this was the starting point for the first call of a project or a program on research in assistive technology. But the good thing for me is that I met many of the people that later founded the AAATE, and I learned a lot from them. So I must say that all my relationship with them and all the time we spend in the commission with, discussing the principles of the calls, and have been for me, I mentioned yesterday, better than a couple of masters because they were the real experts in the topic at that moment. So they influenced me very, very much, and including, of course, Georgios and Professor Buller. So thank you to all of you. Thank you to AAATE, and continue, please, working for people with disability, but always with people with disability. It's the only problem that engineers could have. So don't forget the people with disability.
Congratulations again. That's to say the last words that I was happy today twice because I have been working in the 90s, at the beginning of 90s with both Christian and Julio in some of the projects they have mentioned. And so I think this was my privilege. And now I have the honor to give you both the award of AAATE. Thank you.
Now, Pedro Encarnação, now President-elect.
But it's not under that hat that I'm here now. It's to present the Best Paper Award. So just a brief words about the process. We selected the 10 papers that got the best classifications from our program committee. Then out of those 10 papers, we gave them to 3 additional persons to assess them, and they selected the best 3. And finally, the 2 additional persons assessed the presentations of those 3 candidates during the conference in a completely anonymous process. So we tried to ensure diversity in the jury, so we had different people with different backgrounds in different stages of their research career, AT users, and I would like to thank very much the jury. The it was not an easy task, not only because we received a lot of very, very good contributions, but because, as Evertian mentioned at the previous session, the AAATE conference aims to be a forum for all the stakeholders. So we received a lot of different works on the field with different perspectives. And while we value that, that makes the work of the jury very hard because it's not easy to compare very different works. But we managed to do that. And what the award is? The award is, it was sponsored by iOS, which is the publishing house that houses our proceedings and also our Technology and Disability Journal. By the way, the Technology and Disability Journal received this year his first impact factor. So please consider publishing your research in that journal. And the award will be making available the paper, the article, freely for everyone. So without further ado, the award goes to Sharona Vonk, Gull, Dewison, Roel, Bosman, Kim Daniels, and Annemie Spurum for their paper, MS at Work, the development of a MS toolkit for stable employment. Hopefully Sharona is here. And I don't think she is. So we'll make sure that she knows that she receives this, she received this award. Okay. No, it was her presenting. Okay.
Now that's me. Well, whoa, I fall down. So, I think this is, did we forget something, another award, something, no? Did we forget a presentation? No, okay. Okay, so no, well, now we're there. It's the end. Everybody is hungry. I am tired, so I will be very fast. We try to be very fast. When a professor says it's going to be very fast, you should be suspicious. Anyway, I will try. So, thank you everybody here. I really hope you found here some interesting contents. And the best is that this interesting content will lead you to new ideas, new collaborations, or to continue collaborations, new contacts, hopefully new projects. This is the overall goal for organizing this kind of conference. So just very quickly, we had 150 presentations in the tracks, in the 4 scientific tracks. 45, about 45, maybe 44, something like that in the Inclusion Forum. That's a lot. And you were here 335 registered participants from 47 countries on 5 continents. Only 1 planet, sorry. So you can find, so in this 150 presentation, you have two parts, which are not, there's not one better than the others. It's 2 different things. We have because I just want to clarify very quickly one thing. Usually people who are coming from the technical fields, they need a paper to get the money to go to a conference. So they need the paper and we want to have proceedings. But then we had a lot of remarks from people from other topics who don't want to put a paper in a conference because it does not count for their career. If you are in computer science, a paper in a conference, when it is with reviewing, it's like a journal, but in educational sciences, for instance, it's just nothing, so they lose the paper. So that's why we have these 2 categories. So we have the iOS paper, and there is something, maybe some of you already sent me some email because the link was not working when I sent the email. Actually, the system, and I cannot change the system cuts the link, and the link is complete at the end. So you have to go down the mail and you find the link which is working. So if you did not manage to have this link working, Sorry about that, because it's some system we use and I cannot change it. And then on the book of abstract, you find, of course, all the content, all the sessions, but there is an appendix with the 80 papers from the oral contributions, and which are there. So, well, I have also something I would just want to stress now. Say, I think it's, I was very sorry because a few participants who had papers, who were, and we had an example this morning in the science session, could not come because they could not have a visa. And I just want to say one word, that it is a huge shame for all Schengen countries that this can happen. We have researchers, professors, they just can have a visa because somebody is afraid that they are going to take away the trash in Paris. Come on. Anyway. So this is really my shame after all. So now to finish, because we're hungry, I want to say thank you. I want first to thank all the speakers, all the panelists, presenters and chairs, because actually they do the contents. We just do some little organization, so it works, but the most important is the content, and the most important is you, the speakers, the contributors. This is really the essence. You bring the essence of the conference. I want to say thank you. So first, thank you all presenters. And then I want to thank the AAATE board, because despite they know me since about, I think it's 10 years that I'm in the board, they finally accepted to give me the organization on this. So that was a strange idea, but they did. So thank you guys. And all participants who attended to the conference too. Thank you very much. Finally, I have to say some thank you to the University Paris 8, because they give us this building. And this building was built 3 or 4 years, it was opened, I think it's 4 years ago. Well, there are still some technical things, because of course in the maintenance is not furnished with the building, but we have a nice tool for making conferences. I have to say also a big thank to the staff of this campus, because this is a campus shared by the university. This is not, well, this was for the staff of the Condorcet campus, which is, well, I don't have time, so I will go next. And then a special applause also for the catering service. It's a company for people with disability. And I don't know if you agree with me, but I thought the food was pretty good. So they were very nice. I have to thank the Johannes Kepler team, because they are running the system. They helped me a lot with the organization on the registration side, and especially Thomas Murillo Morales and Prisca, which I cannot say her name. And to finish, I have a wonderful, fantastic team here. This is some students from Paris State Universities: Anna, Denilza, Ella, Fiona, Lucienne, Lina, Lindsay, Lolita, Luca, Perla, Rasha, Sandra, Shukran. They're doing a big work here. And we also have PhD students from my laboratory: Justin, Yacine, Valentina, Yanling, and Julie. They are in, well, somebody has to stay in the register, so they are here. Come. Suba, who is the technician of our department, a lot, and Salvatore, my colleague, and Guillaume. So Salvatore is waving here, and Guillaume, who was with the Innovation Center, he had to go back to Grenoble. He is a professor in computer science too. Well, thank you. It's finished. Now we can go to have food.
And we have also to thank Dominic for organizing everything. Thank you. Just a small token of appreciation. And I would also like to extend the thanks to the AAATE staff, Evertian Priska, which is not here anymore. She went home already, and also Sabine. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, I forget Evertian for the inclusion forum. So, sorry, Evertian, I forget to say you were organizing completely the inclusion forum. Now you can go to the university restaurant like the other days. They serve the last meal at 2:30, so you have time, but not too much. And they close the building at 3, so you can go have food and voilà. And I hope to see you in AAATE 2025, 27, 29, 31, 33, 36.